Hi there, Medical Wildcats. I'm Joseph Guggenheim. I'm a 1972 Feinberg alum, and today we will be highlighting the Northwestern Medical Orchestra. This was established in 2017, but in its short existence, it's been very active, rehearsing almost weekly throughout the year and performing for the Northwestern medical community and for patients. I have several members of the orchestra today with me. Joining today, we have Bettina and Michael, who are members of the orchestra and co-founders. They are medical students. We have Tai Chi, who is the principal conductor. Gila, an alum who is a practicing physician and plays the French horn. Molly and Dave, who are faculty members, oboists, and sometimes take the responsibilities for conducting. And Dan, a trumpet player and a staff member from our Alumni Relations Department, who will be sharing the interviewing responsibilities with me today. I'd like for our members to introduce themselves, please.
Hi, alumni friends. Dan Schwartzlows from your Alumni Relations team. I hope that many of you will join the orchestra when it's safe to resume rehearsals. We would love to have more alumni. As Dr. Guggenheim said, I play trumpet in the Northwestern Medical Orchestra, and I went to Northwestern as an undergrad where I studied in both the School of Music and the College of Arts and Sciences, graduating with an English degree.
Hi, my name is Michael Wang. I'm currently a fourth-year medical student at Feinberg School of Medicine. I'm a co-founder of the Northwestern Medical Orchestra. I got my start in music on piano, but switched to clarinet when I was in middle school. So I consider myself primarily a clarinetist now, and I play clarinet and conduct in the NMO.
Hi everyone, I'm Bettina. I'm in the MD PhD program here at Feinberg, and I've completed the first 2 years of medical school, and I'm starting my second year as a PhD student. I play the French horn. I started in middle school, like Michael started on the clarinet, and I currently still play the French horn in NMO and serve as co-president.
Hi everyone, my name is Taichi Fukumura. I also wear many hats, but I think I'm the only one where all of them are in music. I did my master's in conducting at Northwestern, currently finishing up my doctoral musical arts, also in Northwestern. And in Chicago, I currently work with 6 different orchestras. I'm the artistic director and principal conductor for Northwestern Medical Orchestra.
Hi, I'm Molly Bright. I'm a faculty member in the Feinberg School of Medicine, where I run a research group that focuses on developing medical imaging techniques in rehabilitation. And I've been an oboist since I was a kid and have just really tried to maintain that aspect of music throughout my sort of transition into being a scientist and professor here at Northwestern.
I'm David O'Neill. I'm also a faculty member, and I'm in the Department of Biomedical Engineering, mostly up in Evanston, where I teach a bunch of undergraduate courses. I'm also the Michael Jaharis Director of Experiential Learning for the department. I also, like Michael, started on piano, then I moved to oboe, and I've been conducting since I was a first-year undergraduate at the University of Oxford back in the UK.
And I'm Gila Davis. I'm a member of the orchestra, which I absolutely adore. I went to Northwestern in the HPME program, Feinberg 1975. And I played French horn in high school and came back to it in my early 60s. And I'm currently in full-time private practice in psychiatry and absolutely adore the group. It's just magical.
So Bettina and Michael, you founded the orchestra. What inspired you to found this orchestra, and how did the orchestra come to be?
Yeah, so Michael and I actually went to undergrad together at Yale, and we helped manage a completely student-run orchestra there. And when we both decided to matriculate to Feinberg, we realized there wasn't an orchestral group here. And since it's something that we've both done for a very long time, we decided to make a new group, and Feinberg makes that an easy thing. And we just happened to find a lot of musicians who wanted to join us.
Yeah, in terms of how this particular orchestra came to be, there was, in truth, a significant amount of serendipity in addition to the hard work that went into it. I'd like to tell a brief story about how we found our faculty advisor. It was about September, October of my first year at Feinberg. So I'd only been in Chicago at Northwestern for a few months. I saw an ad for this dinner called Alumni Physicians of Feinberg, in a long-running program in which a physician who's an alum comes and talks very informally with a group of students about their experience and advice. I went to one with Dr. Ben Singer, who's a Feinberg alum and also now a physician at Northwestern. And he was talking about what he did for self-care when he was in medical school. He was talking, interesting enough, about playing music and playing in a musical group that was around then. And that inspired me to just go up and talk to him more about that, because Bettina and I were thinking about the orchestra. And his college mentor at Feinberg at the time was Dr. Greg Brisson, an individual whom we subsequently emailed, and that's how we found our faculty advisor.
How was your experience at Northwestern Orchestra different from your experience with the Yale Orchestra?
Yeah, so at Yale, we were all undergrads, so everyone was kind of in the same stage of life, and the group was, just a bunch of 18 to 21-year-olds. But here at NMO, we have members from all over the medical community, so it's quite a different feel. We're still playing for the enjoyment of music and for our own well-being, but since we're so tied to the medical community, I think that gives our group it changes our mission and our audiences. So yeah, I think it's still a great group, but it's just a little bit different in terms of our makeup and who we play for.
I completely agree. It's the membership that makes this particular orchestra the most special. I play in the clarinet section with two cardiology fellows who are in the same year and just happen to be also clarinetists. They also went to Feinberg together. And they've become some of my great friends and advisors through my first years in medical school. And that's just an incredible connection to make. And I think NMO offers the opportunity for those types of connections to be made. In addition, one other difference is the orchestra at Yale, it was completely student run, and that included the conductors. I actually conducted that group for 3 years. NMO has the unique privilege of having a principal conductor who's a professional musician. And really interestingly, when we were getting this group off the ground, we were talking with Dr. Brisson, who had agreed to become our advisor. And he said, I saw in the Daily Northwestern newspaper today a story about a conductor up in Evanston. And that conductor was Tai Chi. It was a story about how an orchestra he had founded up in Evanston had just done a concert. And Dr. Brisson said, you should really reach out to him and see if he'll conduct. And I remember thinking, there's no way that he wants to make the 45-minute commute down to Chicago every week, but maybe if he's really generous of spirit, he'll agree to advise someone, the conductor that ends up conducting the group, and maybe do a master class or two. It was quite a shock when Bettina and I talked to him for the first time. He said, "Yeah, I wanna be the full conductor."
Tai Chi, what motivated you to want to conduct this orchestra? And how has it been different from other orchestras you have conducted?
Yeah, so it was so funny because my dad is actually a cancer researcher. My mom is a harpsichordist and a pianist. And it's all over my family. There's medicine and music. And my grandfather, actually, he was a doctor and an amateur opera singer. He used to put together opera productions, bringing together his medical network and musician network. So it's just such a funny thing that I am here with you guys and working with the Northwestern Medical Orchestra. There's so many, like Michael said, there's so much serendipity. There's so many layers of it. But for me personally, I loved it right away when Michael and Bettina came to talk to me about it. Because for me, as a conductor, music is always the thing that we do. I think of it as the verb as opposed to a noun. So people often think about music as the thing and then people gather around it. But I think music is the activity. And what really matters is the people in the room, whether it's musicians in the orchestra or the audience, that shared experience. So I was attracted to this orchestra for many reasons right away. And it turned out to be one of the most rewarding things I currently do, because we always break the fourth wall in this orchestra. And something incredible that I see every single time we have an event is how much mingling we have between the audience and the players. So like I said, I work with many different orchestras, but nowhere else do you see at intermission or before and after the concert, complete mixture of musicians out in the hall, chatting with friends and families, and sometimes even their patients, and as well as audience members coming into the area where the orchestra is set up and just totally intermingling everywhere. I love the, precious moments that come out of that, both what I see and also when I get to chat with a lot of people. But actually, I'm sure anyone here could share a story about, audience interaction, because it's so intertwined.
I would love to tell a story. First of all, I just want to say that it's a great privilege and honor to be able to rehearse at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. It's an amazing institution and for many, many years, decades, the #1 rehabilitation hospital in the country. But what makes it really special is being able to rehearse every week with patients coming by in the hallways, getting in their exercise with family members or professionals who are helping them. And I'll see them, sometimes they peek in the door and we'll motion them to come in, and they'll sit down and enjoy. Sometimes I'll even go out in the hallway and flag someone down who didn't come in and say, you can come in here anytime. We rehearse it, every Tuesday. And you see what it really means to them. They're going through a lot, physically and mentally. And so you hear, music therapy, you hear that term bandied about, but you really see how meaningful it is to those patients. And in terms of performances, I want to share a photo. This is one of my favorite photos. So this is during the intermission of a concert at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. I have handed over my two dear trumpets to new friends, Cozy, who is 8 years old. She's holding my B flat, the Brown instrument, and Toti, who's 3 years old, who I took the leap of faith and handed my brand new Bach Stradivarius horn over to a 3-year-old, and I said, he's not gonna drop it, and he didn't. This is really what it's all about. You can also see there's a wheelchair right there. So, taking that time to interact with the students, the patients, the children, the family members that come to our rehearsals. I know their mother and father. The father is a alumnus of Northwestern as well, a physician, trauma surgeon. And the next day, Cozy and Toti's mother said, Cozy went home last night and figured out at age 8 she said, I want to play in the Northwestern Medical Orchestra when I'm older. She did the math. I'll be in the orchestra in 2022. Or if I get into the HPME program and can finish undergraduate in 3 years, I'll be in the orchestra in 2021. That's what happens when you go and interact with the people that come to your concerts. So very, very special indeed.
I love that story. And I would say, like, the kind of the representation, the diversity that we get in the audiences that we perform for or just rehearse for sometimes. I think it's also very unique that NMO has that diversity inside of the group itself. So I'm in my mid-30s. When I play in amateur orchestras, I am typically either the oldest person in a student ensemble or the youngest person in an ensemble, mostly made out of people who have already retired. And this group just does not do that. It really spans that entire range. And there's something kind of special that comes with that more cross-sectional approach. You make connections that span everything from student to retiree. That includes all different aspects of the medical profession in between. So I have found that to be particularly unique for NMO and something I have really valued as a member of the orchestra.
We all have busy schedules. I'd like to hear from Bettina as a medical student and Gila as a practicing physician about how do you find time to fit this in to your busy schedule, and what advice can you give to other people who need to take up a diversion or hobby?
Well, I go first. I think I'm probably about 19 years, if I did the math correctly, older than the next oldest person in the group. And so that makes me sort of like a grandma, I guess. What I love about this group and why I make time for it is it's a real antidote for burnout, which many people in their 60s start to develop, and the cynicism that comes along with it. I have the privilege of playing with Bettina, who is extremely patient with me, infinitely better than I could ever imagine being. And even though I'm up in Northfield, which is probably about a 25-mile drive, I've done my very best to make it down because when I finish playing, I feel better than I have in years. And the endorphin kick I get, and the intergenerational generativity aspect of it is priceless. So I think it's not only worth considering, but definitely worth doing if people are able to at this point. It keeps you young, as they say.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll just start out by saying that meeting Gila was definitely a highlight of joining NMO, and I love sitting next to her in the section, and she's better than she claims she is. She's a great player.
Thank you. You're sweet.
So I've kind of worn two hats at Feinberg so far. I've been a medical student, and now I'm currently a PhD student. But for me, I think those are just parts of who I am, and being a musician is also just as important to me. That's it. And I think you should always make time for things that are a part of you and that make you happy. So when I was a medical student, I had a clinic right before rehearsal. So I was always running straight from there to rehearsal and just pulling off my white coat and sitting in my seat. And it was quite a rush, but I definitely have more time in my schedule as a medical student. Now as a researcher, kind of have the 9 to 5 doing experiments all day. And I think now I really realize how much music really helps me get through a rigid schedule like that. Even like, I'll admit some weeks I have had a really long day in lab and have to go in over the weekends as well. But then I say to myself, oh my gosh, I still have rehearsal tonight. How am I ever gonna make it? But I always go, I always put myself together, and I never regret it. As soon as Tai Chi gives us the downbeat, it reminds me of who I am, why I do this. And even if you only find time once a week to do something that you love, it's a huge boost to your general happiness.
Michael, this question is for you. Michael, Feinberg really cares about student wellness and does a really great job in providing resources for self-care. How does NMO help medical students manage stress and other responsibilities?
Yeah, so you've you've heard Gila and Bettina give their perspectives about what NMO does for them. I basically echo that completely. Being a musician is part of my identity, and being able to express that, play together with other people across campus on a regular basis, it's just magic, and something that I could never give up because of what it does for me. One of the gratifying aspects of leading NMO is seeing how much of a shared experience that is for others too. Not only from the two other people on this call, but I've seen lots of my fellow medical students coming to rehearsal even when it's an exam week. So evidently NMO does something for them too, that it's not rehearsal's not a hindrance in preparing for an exam. It may even be a helpful thing. And the administration has been really supportive of us and supportive of this aspect as well. There is actually an opportunity sponsored by AWOMI, which is the Medical Education Office. They collaborated with us, I believe it was about a year ago, to create a chamber music concert consisting largely of musicians from NMO, although we also opened it up to other musicians across campus. And we played for peers, other medical students, and people across campus. And that really reflected how it's not only playing music for the players, but listening to music for the audience is also a form of self-care and a way for people to practice wellness.
Great. Dave and Michael, I understand you're both musicians, and yet sometimes you share the conducting responsibilities, and also sometimes help out with percussion. What's it like to be both a conductor and a participating musician?
Well, as far as I see it, NMO is by definition a community orchestra. And I see it that having assistant conductors come from sort of within the orchestra, where if that's possible, and with NMO it is possible. And I think that really helps cultivate the sense of teamwork. It's particularly useful that Michael is a clarinetist and I'm an oboist, and that means that when the orchestra splits off and has string sectionals and wind sectionals, it means that we can stand up and support our fellow wind players for sort of half a rehearsal at a time. And then on a personal note, my favorite musical activity that I enjoy doing myself most is conducting. And as an amateur, opportunities for conducting are exceedingly few and far between. So it's great that I'm in a family orchestra, community orchestra, that gives me the opportunity to keep up my conducting.
I completely agree with that. It's an incredible privilege to be an assistant conductor for the orchestra. Like Dave, I started conducting around freshman or sophomore year of undergrad, and it's honestly, it's like my people in medicine often get asked the question, especially trainees, like, what would you do if you couldn't be a doctor? For me, it would actually be a conductor. So it means that much to me to be able to continue doing it, because opportunities are few and far between. In terms of playing percussion, which actually all the conductors in the orchestra have done, Tai Chi, Dave, and I come from a proud tradition of self-led orchestras having conductors play percussion. I did it a lot in undergrad too, as Bettina, who's laughing and nodding, can attest to. I think when you run an orchestra yourself, you have to kind of cheerfully take on the unexpected and take on multiple roles, including percussion playing. And you have to use a lot of ingenuity as well. We've kind of repurposed chairs as bass drums in the past as we were just getting started. In the beginning, the orchestra had a lot of needs because all of the musical resources, and especially percussion equipment in particular, are up in Evanston, and there's not an infrastructure for that down here. And so we had to make do with a lot of things and repurpose a lot of things. And it wasn't until we were in the position to run a fundraiser in order to get more percussion instruments and let dedicated percussionists have the opportunity to participate in the orchestra, that we were finally able to get some real equipment. And that fundraiser was a lot of work. I think it was back in early 2019, if I'm remembering correctly. But we saw an amazing outpouring of support from people who liked our mission and what we were doing, and raised over $10,000 in order to buy, biggest of all, two brand new timpani, which are prominently featured in a lot of the orchestral repertoire, basically required instruments to have for any orchestra. And because of that, we were able to include a new first-year medical student who was a percussionist full-time with us, which was really special.
Great. Well, Tai Chi, it sounds like you and the orchestra have had a lot of success in the brief 3 years that it's been in existence. What's the future hold for the orchestra and you?
So first of all, I want to just make my way back and talk about what Michael and David were just talking about, which is another really unique aspect of NMO, which is how many different talents we have and how adaptable we are as an organization because of that. We faced many challenges. It's actually hard to believe it's been only 3 years because we've come such a long way. And timpani, the drums that Michael mentioned, that's the backbone of the orchestra. I mean, having that and not having that is day and night. And having a keyboard and all these other things, we've come a long way. But a lot of that required problem solving and being creative. And that's something NMO has been good at. Having 3 conductors, it's definitely a privilege. I'm really grateful that we can get creative with that as well. But moving forward, the biggest challenge we face right now, or one of them, is of course COVID-19, like everyone else. And for our organization, because of the type of people we have, both in the orchestra and the audience, it doesn't make sense to risk having things be forced to be as normal, right? So we're lucky to be in Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, but that building has patients and medical workers going through all the time. So instead, we have to get creative about what we can do with music, how we can create a nurturing environment and provide activities for both our players and patients. So there's a number of things I'm very excited about for the orchestra, one of which is how many conversations we've been having recently, both within the orchestra, the members of the orchestra, as well as the executive board, because we're talking about a lot of really important things about what the orchestra can do now during COVID-19. We have some plans and initiatives that's on the way. And also we are addressing the Black Lives Matter movement, which is going on. It's nothing new, but it's so much on such a need. I mean, it has been, but we are committing to make those changes. We've been having a lot of discussions on how to revise our mission, which actually I think came out publicly today, right? Yeah. And yeah, there are lots of really exciting things in there. One of the things I'm really excited about musically is the diverse programming that we're committed to do, and in particular, collaborations with living composers. Last year, no, actually 2 seasons ago now, we had a composer workshop with a composer from our very own community. Dr. Arup Kaur is a physician at Leary and also an alumnus of Feinberg, Northwestern. And he had a piece that we did a workshop. So basically it's just, we take one of the rehearsals and the orchestra would play this piece that nobody has ever heard before. And he would get to hear it. We would get to have back and forth feedback and work on it. And that was it for that. But then the following season, we performed it because of popular demand from our musicians. The piece was really well received. People really liked being able to explore new music and being part of the process of bringing that to life. It's really, really special. So that was a great success last season when we got to share that whole experience with our audience. So one of the things we're looking into is how to, maybe we'll work with him more. Maybe we'll be able to bring in other living composers and also represent music of traditionally underrepresented demographics. So racial minorities or women or other composers. So there's a lot on the way. And it's such, you know, it's a group of so many really smart people who really care about what they do. And as they say, when there's a will, there's a way. So I'm very, very excited for where we are heading.
Well, great. Well, today we're very fortunate to be able to hear virtually an excerpt from a performance of Dr. Carr's Stormy Sea. So until next month, stay safe, stay connected, and let's get together again virtually next month.